ready?
Yeah. Are you?
You got all your podcast equipment set up and all that stuff.
Yeah, I feel like a real podcaster. Well, I've always wanted to, so this is a good step.
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted to do something like this too. Somebody used to make fun of me that whenever I wanted to talk to them or I wanted to have a conversation about some adjustment that they had to do at work, I will say, let's talk.
Yeah.
That was my go-to. Hey, let's talk. Instead of, it was kind of like, let's just have a serious conversation.
Yeah, normally it would be more of a, let's have a meeting. That sounds a little bit more strict.
Yeah, more serious. Yeah, but for me, it was more like more real. I wasn't trying to have a meeting in the sense of a serious meeting. It was more like a conversation, so that I could figure out what they were thinking, because nobody wants to do harm to anybody, but they sometimes it just happens. So the name of these sound clips or podcast or whatever you want to call it, we're gonna use the let's talk thing. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing let's talk, but that's fine. But that's kind of how we're gonna do it. But anyways, yeah, that's the idea. So I hope this is from your side, from your point of view, is something that also excites you and gets you motivated to do this and to help me do this.
Yeah, it definitely does. Especially being the first invite, the first guest.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you had to be, because just in case you decide to take off,
Of course, this is coming.
at one point or another, this is kind of like normal for you.
Before I leave.
People that the insiders will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So again, this is a very informal, very casual conversation. So. I wanted to, a big thing that is happening right now in the U.S. in the conversations that I have with people that really want this to work, and they've been helping us get more traction in Guatemala. I'm not gonna say the names; they know who they are if they listen to this, but they given us feedback to improve some things at Icon. And one of the things that they said was English. There's always room for improvement in English. So I wanted to bring that up because, I want you to maybe explain to us how. Maybe the first thing will be like, where do you learn to speak English as well as you do? Because a lot of people in Guatemala speak English, but this is kind of a different situation because you speak perfectly, and I just want to hear your story on that side.
Well, I think I'm actually gonna go into saying that it's gonna be a funny story if I go in detail. I started learning English when I was in elementary school in Guatemala, right? But it was very basic. It's very grammar or spelling focused. It's not very. I don't think they focus it on the way of to talk, but it's more of learn the grammar and spelling side of it, which is great, right? But getting the practice, I started to get more of it when I moved to the U.S. So, my mom got sick and I had to move to the U.S. because of treatment. So I was there for, I want to say, almost 3 years when I was in 5th grade of elementary school or 6th grade here, which would be, elementary school over there. Or maybe 4th or 5th, I don't remember exactly. So I started to practice there. I used to go to these little schools. Well, in the U.S., they separate you whenever you are not a fluent speaker of English. They move you to different classrooms because you're not fluent, right? So it was really funny because I used to be with classmates that didn't speak English, nor did they speak Spanish. So maybe they were Asian or from other countries, and no one would talk to each other.
Oh, wow.
Because barely anyone would speak to each other, right? Or have a way to do so. So then I moved back to Guatemala, and then I moved back to the U.S. and I moved to Georgia, where I think that's where I learned more of my. I think I still had a very strong accent, and I started to get better, of course, because all I did was speak English.
What age was that? What age was when you went to Georgia?
Just turned 13, and I was there
13. No,
until
perfect age. Yeah.
yeah, and I was there until I was almost 17, so about 4 years, right? Um,
Interesting.
Yeah, so I was there. I want to say my accent got better, but it wasn't perfect yet. It wasn't to. Well, I don't want to say it's perfect, right? But it wasn't to where I have it now. And what happened was, I think my time in the U.S. where I learned, and what I really got to learn is the way that people really talk. And why I want to say that is because in any country, what you learn in textbooks are not what really happens in conversations, right? Because if you focus yourself on, even in Spanish, when you learn Spanish and you read it from a textbook, that's not how people really talk. So
Right.
when I live in the U.S., I really learn how people actually, express themselves. And I think that's what
Yeah.
has helped me a lot.
I think one difference is that I noticed with you is there is a timing there's a timing element that you really are really able to master and really able to show the level of English that you have. The timing is different in Guatemala than it is in the U.S. There's a little bit more. How can I say it? In maybe a little interrupting. When it comes to when it comes to like the conversations are a little overlapping. I don't want to say interrupting because they're overlapping. Where in English you stay quiet almost until the other person completely finish talking, and there's long silences, right? Where in Guatemala it's a more interactive, more dynamic conversation. So that's a big difference, and you turn it off and on because I seen you speaking Spanish, and you turn it on and off depending on the language that you are on. So those are like nuances.
I hadn't really noticed that until you're saying it right now. That when I am talking to you or Ramson or anyone in the U.S., I do feel like my mindset of how I'm talking does change in the way of the process. I think it's a big thing, right? Maybe, us, not even Guatemala, it's just Latin people. We are so like fast paced on speaking. Like we just love talking and talking fast that it's true. Someone might be in the middle of their sentence and you already are responding to them, right? So that happens.
Yeah.
Now, going back to, even though I had that in mind, that of how culture or slang or different conversations go, my accent was still pretty strong, even when I was about to be 17. Now, when
Yeah.
I came to Guatemala, I was still in school for a year, which I had English class. Didn't really help me much because it was more grammar based as well. Back to that, and it was funny because in my school in Guatemala, there were people in my same classroom that would do better in grammar or spelling than I did, even though I lived in the U.S. So
Yeah, yeah. I noticed that. There was a little thing that I wrote and I put on the chat, and I received two messages back with corrections, and those people that corrected my my sentences, their English was, I mean, there were thick accents. But it was great. It was great to see because it's just a matter of practice now, right? It's a matter of teaching them and practicing. Yeah, but I agree with you. Yeah.
So, I was in school and that happened. Now, when I turned 18, that's when I started working in call centers. And I remember my
Got
first
it.
job is, I was working for a sales company that used to do inbound sales for internet and home phone, right? Now, I want to say that,
Do you remember the names of the companies in
I
the
don't
U.S.?
know if I can say it. Can I say it? Or are you going to get in trouble?
I, I'm not. I don't. I look. We're not doing it. Like think about this. Even if it's a problem, we're not doing it maliciously, right? The reason why we're doing it is because we want to bring more of these companies to the to Guatemala, to Icon, to say, hey, these guys work for big corporations, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Now there's you got, obviously we want to be careful. These corporations are awesome. These companies in the US are awesome. They have been doing an amazing job at growth, and they're using Guatemalan talent to do even more. So there's we're mentioning them in a good context. I actually look at some of the stuff that these people have done, and I'm like amazed, and I wanna achieve some of that stuff. So yeah,
Well, yeah. Well, so now that you said that, I used to work for a company called Comwave. Have you heard of it?
yeah, yeah.
Comwave. It's bigger in Canada than in the U.S. I actually was seeing calls from Canadians, not Americans, right? So
Right.
and funny enough, I do want to say I am very humble, right? I don't like to brag, but
Oh God. Oh God. There comes the brag right after that.
I want to say something. It was a sales department. I've never done sales before. And the person that
Uh-huh.
interviewed me said, look, we're only hiring people with experience, but I do want to take my chance at you because I feel like you could become a good salesperson. So I said, okay, I'll do it. I think it was like 5 months later or less, I broke the record of the company, even with US and people in Philippines and Guatemala and everyone in one day, which I did I think it was like 32 sales in a day. And
Wow, good thing you're humble.
yeah, well, I'm just telling you the facts. It's not even my opinion.
Okay.
So
All
I had
right.
this call with I think it was a VP of the company, and he talked to me and he said, "Do you know that, we even had to listen to your calls because we thought, you were doing something wrong." And I was like, "Yeah, well, I could imagine that you would think so." But no, everything was fine. But I want to say that in my year working there, and funny enough, that's where I feel like my accent got way better. And it's not even my opinion because 2 years, I think it was like 2 years after I came to Guatemala, I went to the US to visit my family and friends. And even they told me, how come your accent has gotten better in Guatemala than living here? And I hadn't really
Yeah.
noticed. But I thought, well, what could be is the fact that I spend 8 hours a day speaking in English, right? And
Yes.
not
Yes.
street English. Now I already know the street English of friends and family, but now I'm in the more professional side of it, right? So
Right.
why I'm saying this is because my first day when I got interviewed, my accent was not the best, and I didn't have sales experience. Few months later, I had a really good accent and I was the top performer in sales. So I do want to, I do want to say that people can surprise you and you can learn a lot in your first few months. And I think that's where Guatemalans really make a big difference is that we don't like when people tell us that we can't do anything or something. We do have a pride in us that we want to convince or show people that we can make it. And when I
Yeah.
got told, look, I'm going to take a risk on you, even though you don't have sales experience, I said, okay, I have to make it. Like there's not another option, And practicing every day, speaking 8 hours through the phone on English, I mean, I can imagine that my accent got better. And not even mine, everyone else's, right? Even my friends that I used to work
Yeah.
with, there's another story I want to share with you maybe after, we finish this part of the conversation. But, I saw people that I could tell every day they got better, right? So the good thing about Guatemala is that you can hire people that have a bunch of experience and you don't have to invest a lot on, but also you can hire people that they will learn and they will make it happen because that's just how the Guatemalan pride works.
Yeah. I want to mention something. We're actually working right now on initiative to improve the English level of some very very how can I say it, stellar people or high producers, top producers at Icon that are doing an amazing job on the performance, but a they have some, accent, or heavy accent that is kind of like it's a problem. It's a problem in the sense of the perception in the U.S. You're able to understand them. You're able to hear what they're saying and understand what they're saying, and have a long conversation with them. But the accent still needs to be improved. And one of the things, so one thing that we're doing is we're hiring an English teacher, native English, that will work on the nuances of English, not so much on the grammar, because we're supposed to have people that already have the grammar skills, the grammar, the maybe work on some phonetics, work on some nuances, English, what is it, U.S. culture, work on that type of stuff. But one other thing that I ask HR to implement is just English only in the office. Like, if you're in the office, you're going to be talking in English, no matter who you are, no matter what you do. And this starts with the leadership. And I'm glad that you said it by yourself. Like, I didn't have to talk to you about it or anything like that. You just said it right here organically. That's one of the things that help you the most. Having to sit through 8 hours of English only, it just improves your English. I mean, I see it over the weekend. Like, over the weekend, I'm Spanish. I'm talking in Spanish to my family, and my accent gets worse on Monday. And it's just a short period of time. So if I stay in English for a long period of time, my Spanish gets worse.
Yeah, and you barely speak Spanish, so
Yeah. So I actually speak a lot of Spanish, and I do that with my family. But business wise, it's all English. So so in my other business, the restaurant, sometimes I speak Spanish, but mostly English in all businesses. So it's like, this is just not.
and because I've read studies about how even the mind works, that your mind doesn't recognize it as a division or divides or separates the languages. In your mind, you only have one language, and the fact that you speak sometimes in English or Spanish, and if you can look it up, or we can get fact checked. But I've read.
Yeah, fact check. Yeah. There's gonna be a pop up. There's gonna be a pop up on the screen. Is like fact check, right, by Hector.
But yeah, I've read studies that your mind doesn't really recognize. Oh, you have, this is your Spanish bots or your English bots, and that's why. And I know this probably happens to you, that you think in Spanish or you think in English sometimes. It's just, something really interesting to me is that I always count in English. I don't know why, but my numbers, I always say them in English. Even when I'm speaking to someone in Spanish, in my mind, I always count in English. And I don't know if it's because most of my school was in the U.S., right? But it's just, you don't really turn it off or turn it on. But then that's what happens, right? Then eventually, if you don't practice it, like anything, like riding a bike, if you don't practice it enough, you're going to forget. I haven't ridden a bike in I don't know how long. I don't feel comfortable if someone tells me, hey, let's ride a bike for 2 hours in the middle of the street. I probably wouldn't do it. Because I haven't done it in so long.
Of course. Alex, I wanted to ask you there's a couple of things that I wanted to ask you. And this goes back to just the cultural side. And I just want to see if you can verify or tell me that is not true. But somebody was telling me that U.S. sports in Guatemala are a big thing, and people get together at restaurants and things like that to watch. I don't know, football or basketball. I don't know about baseball, but whatever. Like just different sports. Is that how true is that? How much have you seen that in yourself?
I've seen it grow a lot, and I think you get the culture-wise, not even just in sports, but in general, trends that that are growing in the U.S. they get to us. It's like it gets it's contagious to us, I think, and I would say probably football and basketball are the biggest ones, especially football, right? You can hear people talking about games or talking about getting together to watch football. We have a lot of people that have U.S. influence because they either live there or they have family and friends that live there, which of course,
That's true.
makes you want to see or do what is happening in the U.S., right? And you can even see that why the NFL is having football games in Mexico now, right? So that's because
Yeah.
it keeps growing. It's becoming something that a lot of people like to adapt to, right? Even baseball. I am more of a soccer fan, but I could see how.
No. Are you?
Yeah, well, surprise.
We all know who the best player in the world is, and that's Ronaldo, right? I mean, we know.
Yeah, I don't
We
know if
know
this
that.
is the right podcast to go with discussion.
You're like, I don't want to be involved in this fight.
Well, I think and I think all that's also happening in the U.S., right? I feel like soccer is growing.
Oh yeah, soccer is like huge here and is getting bigger, and some people are kind of reluctant, but
Yeah,
I mean, big names are coming to the U.S. and it's been lately that the stadiums are getting filled up, and obviously that's kind of hard to ignore because that's a lot of money.
yeah.
And U.S., I mean, it's for profit. You know what I mean? Those games, those leagues are for profit. So now they're making a lot of money, and there's big names coming over. I think they were trying to pull Messi. I think in to the U.S. I think they were trying to do.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna play there eventually because like he has an agreement with a team from Miami, so eventually he's gonna play there for a
Ah,
year or something. Yeah. Well, even the World Cup is gonna be there on 2026 in the U.S. Did you know?
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
No, I didn't know that.
the 2026
Wow.
World Cup is in three countries, which is Mexico, U.S., and Canada. But most of the games are
It's
gonna be
3 years from now.
3 years. It's nothing.
It's like, yeah, that's, oh wow. I'm gonna be. Is there any games? Are there any games in LA?
In LA, yeah, probably. So just so you know, I'm gonna ask for a
Nice.
month off in 2026.
Okay. Well, Ramson is gonna probably call you freaking out, and when you do that.
Well, if he listens to this and he doesn't call me, then I know that it wasn't that important.
That is
I'm good.
that is done.
Yeah.
He's probably call you now.
Well, this is what we're gonna do. We can ask him, hey, do you want to listen to my podcast? And if he doesn't tell me anything, that's how you know that he didn't listen to
He
it.
didn't listen. Well, he'll listen. He'll listen just to like have something to tell me, because he's always, he's such a bully that he's probably gonna call me and start some stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think this has been great. We had these conversations, and I know a lot of the stuff that you said here. I heard it before from you, and I think I think the biggest value of this is I think it's gonna go, apart from people in the U.S. listening and somebody that wants to hear about, okay, well, let me see how the accent is in Guatemala, or what level of English I can get in Guatemala, and hear this. That's going to be one of the benefits. But the other benefit, I think, is going to come from people in Guatemala listening to it and actually getting the advice of like your advice, which came from you, just staying in English and kind of like getting your mind used to English and not switching back and forth is important, and practice. I think that's going to help greatly. To many.
Before we go, I wanted to share with you. I remember, and I always remember this guy that I met when I was working in my first call center. That I had to interview him, and his English, his English was very, very strong. Like the accent was very strong, very, very strong, in the way that he normally wouldn't have been hired, right? So, and I saw how hard working he was. He was such a hard worker. So I said, look, let me work with him. So I started to work with him, and I used to sit with him and read the scripts over and over. and then have, make him commit to having conversations, right? And he got so
Yeah.
much better. Like, he got so much better. He just messaged me not too long ago. I want to say like a few months ago. He's a supervisor at another place now. And it's like, the fact of how he grew, and it's not because of what I did. It's because, he got to the point where he saw that hard work beats whatever skill you're not able to have. We're not born this way.
Yeah.
You work towards the skills or things that you want to learn, right? So, maybe, we have very good people that already have the accent, or they already have the fluency that we need. But we have a lot more people that have the hard work and dedication that we need, so they can get to the point where their English or their fluency or sales skills or customer service skills, they can get to the point where they're better than, what they started, or better than a lot of people from other countries. Because what I can say is that, these people are very hard workers, and what they commit to, they normally, not even, they don't just make it, they exceed their own expectations or everyone's expectations, right? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen it several times. I mean, I love to see those people, the hard workers, the hardworking people. I love to see them succeed. And I don't think it's it is a combination of skill and hard work, but I think hard work is like 75% of it. And like you said, if you don't have the skill, you'll get it through hard work. And sometimes the lack of skill is overlooked because of the hard work. But I do want to mention that in the U.S. there is a huge push to use these nearshore call centers and offshore call centers, and we have a lot of competition in Guatemala. With countries like Colombia, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, like Mexico, other countries kind of like growing in the BPO industry or call center industry, and we have a lot of competition. So we really need to let people know that it's important that they work on improving their English to a level that is competitive with the rest of the countries, right? So even if we have all this competition from other countries, we can say that the Guatemalan talent is, a high level. That how can I say it? Highly competitive. They search for that excellence, and they search to win, no matter who the other agent is, or where the other agent is. Even in the U.S., we have seen our agents outperform some of the agents in the U.S. So it's like that's something that we need to make sure that people know, that it is important for several reasons. I mean, the more we push to be excellent and not just good, the more we do that, the more companies are going to be looking at Guatemala as a premium location, not just as another location, And I think that's where the value is. And you mentioned it, Guatemalans want to do better, want to outperform, and they're very thankful for the opportunities. But we also need to let people know that there is a benefit to push. When people push for excellence, there is a benefit that comes with it, and that's a competitive advantage against the rest of the countries that are doing the same. Before Guatemala, I will say 10 years ago, Guatemala didn't have the competition that it has now, with Colombia and Peru, and so I think if we can send a message to everybody to do better, I think that will be it. We have an opportunity right now to change people's way of looking at things, and try to improve and try to do better. And maybe listening to you will help. I always say it, but maybe listening to some of the people that work at Icon will help, not only people at Icon, but people at other companies in Guatemala to improve,
Yeah.
the motivation to improve.
Yeah, I would like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, thank you very much for your time, Alex. I think this is not gonna be the last one. I think we're gonna do another one because there's other stuff that we could talk about. But
You can call me whenever.
yeah, I know. The hard thing is that we have to be on the microphones, right? And I
Yeah.
mean, I do call you all the time. I'm in my car or or whatever. But this is a different setup. So we'll try to coordinate another one and just make it happen. But thank you for your time. We'll see how this goes. This is the first of hopefully a few more, and hopefully this helps. With the goal of growing this team at Icon and other teams in Guatemala.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, thank you for all right for the talk, and I hope that we can talk again soon.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Alex. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Terry. Bye.
Bye bye.